Good morning. About 150 years ago, one of the great Rabbanim in Europe was, of course, the Ksav Sefer. He was the son of the Chassam Sefer. His mother was a daughter of Rabbi Akiva Eger. Let's just say he came from a family that was very learned and very pious. And one day he had an halachic question. He came to his father, the Chassam Sefer, for an answer. His father did not answer him, and he expected a quick response. Okay, if not right now, maybe in a couple hours he'll call me. But he didn't. And a few days go by and there's still no answer. And it's bothering him. His father's answering responsa, giving responsa to people from all over Europe, asking complex halachic questions, sending him letters, he's responding. And his son has a halachic question, there's no answer coming. So after a few more days, his father calls him in and he says, I want you to know the reason why I didn't answer you is to teach you that sometimes you could live with a question. It's okay. You don't have to have all the answers. And then he proceeded to answer. Sefer Bereshis, which we finished last week, is a sefer, a book, the first book of Torah that has many questions. Firstly, you have challenges that Avraham Avinu goes through. Yitzchak, Yaakov suffers, Yosef suffers. You have a lot of different questions that happen. But we find that the Avos, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they never question Hashem. There are things that go on that if you're experiencing them yourself, you would turn to Hashem and say, what's happening here? You told me to go to Israel and there's a hunger? Why did I go? Or you told me you'll give me a son and you tell me to offer him as a sacrifice. What's the point of that? Right? Or I go down to Mitzrayim and then the wife gets abducted. But Avraham Avinu and all the Avos are patriarchs. They never question Hashem. They just accept it. You don't find any reference or expression that implies, really, why me? How could you? None of that kind of stuff. Which is in stark contrast to this week's Parsha and Moshe's relationship with Hashem, where he gets sent on a mission, and right away, he doesn't like the response at the first attempt, and he's quite harsh and verbally with Hashem. Why have you done bad to this nation? Why did you send me? Where's justice? Why do bad things happen to good people? However you want to translate it, but he's asking Hashem point blank, which is unprecedented to that point, why are you doing this? Okay, so let's just go back a little bit to the background and welcome all those that are watching presently in person and those that are online. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, question. The Yidden are in Mitzrayim suffering already for 86 years. They're there for longer, but the slavery is already 86 years. And the men are forced from very, very difficult labor. The women who are expecting and have to deliver children are hiding in the wilderness. If the Egyptians catch the boys that are born, they throw them into a river, killing them. Paro is bathing himself in children's blood for some kind of, quote, healing process. It's a terrible, terrible reality going on in Mitzrayim. And Moshe, who's not in Mitzrayim, he ran away because Paro wanted to kill him for him killing an Egyptian officer. He's out of Mitzrayim. He's taking care of his father-in-law's sheep. And then he sees a burning bush. He goes to Hashem, speaks to him. Hashem sends him on a mission. Moshe Rabbeinu is following the mission. He goes to Paro. He talks to him and asks him or demands from him to release the Jewish people. Let my people go. Make them free. Paro, not only does he not listen to Moshe, but he says, you guys, you're lazy. You're coming to ask for vacations. You want to take breaks. This is not good for morale. We're going to increase the workload. Up until now, we gave you the supplies to be able to create the bricks, the mortar, whatever you needed. You were laborers, but supplies were given to you. Now, you have to go out there, he told the Jewish people, and figure out the supplies. Find the stuff. Gather, collect. And I'm not decreasing the quota. So you still, which was a very difficult quota as is, You still have to fulfill it, and I'm making you find this stuff. So I'm making you find this stuff. Moshe doesn't just take it sitting down. He goes to Hashem and he complains. You sent me here and it got worse. What was the point? Why did you send me in the first place? Why are you doing bad things to the Jewish people? And according to Mefarshim, not only that, but he complained. He actually ran away from Mitzrayim. He left. He disappeared. Okay, the Rabbeinu Bechaya says that from the day that he came to Parei and said you have to let the Jewish people go, Parei made the workload harder. He intensified the suffering. Moshe tells Hashem, Lama harayesa, and then there are 3 months that you don't hear from him. Iyar, Sivan, and Tammuz, because we know that the Makkahs, the plagues began in Chodesh Av. Okay? And they went all the way through till Nisan, till Pesach time when they were redeemed. So there's a gap here. Okay? Iyar, Sivan, and Tammuz. Moshe, he left. This is not working. What's going on here? You're sending me on a mission, you're not listening. How could this be? How could you question Hashem? How could you demand or even use these type of words? And as Yidden, we look at our own Torah and we see Abraham doesn't do that, Yitzchak doesn't do that, Yaakov doesn't question Hashem, Yosef doesn't question Hashem. They accept it. Things they don't understand in life. And they move on. And yet, the Moshe Rabbeinu is questioning, he's leaving, and so on. Now, Rabbeinu Bechaya continues and he says, it's not really so bad. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu questioned Hashem wasn't such a terrible thing. Why? Because you find that he said it again later. Okay? Later on, he says, Lama harayesa la'avdecha. Why have you done bad to your slave regarding in the desert, regarding the quality of the food and what they were getting, mun, slav, and whatever? Moshe said, why have you done bad? So if it was indeed a problem and an avera to ask Hashem, why have you done bad? He wouldn't have done it a second time. So Rabbeinu Bechaya learns that the Moshe Rabbeinu is questioning Hashem. Maybe it's not the best, but it's not so terrible. It's not considered to be a sin. Rashi, however, takes a very different approach. And Rashi brings that Hashem told him, in Hashem's response, Atosira, you're going to see what I'm going to do to the Egyptians, right? You're complaining, why have I done bad? And it's getting worse. You should know it's part of the process. And you're going to see what I'm going to do to Parei and to the Mitzrayim, because what you'll see here, you've never seen before. The world hasn't seen before. But Rashi learns, you'll see what I'm going to do to Parei, but you're not going to see what I'm going to do to the 7 nations. Meaning, Moshe, you're complaining. You'll see the salvation of the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, but you're not going to see how they get into Eretz Yisrael, because you're questioning. So Rashi learns very different from Rabbeinu Bechaya, and he says clearly this is a problem. The questioning is considered to be negative, and Moshe should not have done it. In a sense, he's literally being punished. Now, we have to understand, how is it that Moshe Rabbeinu is so great, and a Navi and so on, how is he asking Hashem, Lama harayesa? Moshe Rabbeinu, we discussed 2 days ago, and you can see it on YouTube as well, about Moshe Rabbeinu's not being able to speak, why he had a speech impediment. And one of the things we explained is that he's a very high neshama, his neshama is in Golus. Alter Rebbe talks about it in a Maimer, bringing the Zohar, that it couldn't express itself to something like Parei. Okay. But we have an issue here, another explanation here that says that Moshe Rabbeinu was so lofty, he didn't interact with people. Okay? He was a shepherd. He stayed away from people. His service of Hashem and his lifestyle was one, that he was in the countryside taking care of sheep, which allows you to daven, to learn, to reflect, to meditate. It's a different way. He's not, interacting, mingling with regular people. By the way, the Shvatim did the same thing. Besides Yosef, for the most part, they were all shepherds. Yaakov also was a shepherd. But the idea is that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't speak because in order to speak, you have to be able to relate to them. And Moshe Rabbeinu was so spiritual, he didn't even relate to the common person. Most people are trying to elevate this world. Moshe was getting stuff from Hashem. He was connecting on a very, very high level. And that's why Chassidus brings, the Rebbe brings it, the Rebbe talks about it, that Moshe Rabbeinu had a difficulty speaking, because speaking is relating to those around you. It's talking to the world. And Moshe is a very high level here. And if you're so high, you're so connected, and you're questioning Hashem, you're asking Hashem, how come the Jewish people are suffering? It's, where's your faith? Where's your trust? Where's your and your loyalty? It's like what you're asking, you're demanding from Hashem. It's a strange thing. In July of 1968, there was a hijacking. A plane that was going from London, a flight from London to Eretz Yisrael was hijacked and taken, I think, to Algeria. It was a terrible hijacking and really one of the first occurrences in the conflict or the terrorist actions against Israel of that time. What people don't know is that Ariel Sharon, the general, later to become prime minister, was supposed to be on that flight. He actually was in New York. From there, he was taking a flight to London, and from there to Eretz Yisrael. And that flight from London to Eretz Yisrael was hijacked. Why wasn't he on that flight? So there's a video on YouTube from a Rabbi Silber, I think, who says the following story: that he was by the Rebbe, Ariel Sharon, in Yechidus that night. The Rebbe asked him, "So what are your plans? When are you leaving? Whatever." He told him. And the Rebbe said, it's not a good idea for you to take that flight. And he listened, and he didn't take it. And the flight was hijacked. This Rabbi Silber, who's relating the story, Rabbi Siegel is his name. Rabbi Zev Siegel, he was by the Rebbe in Yechidus, and he told the Rebbe, I know what happened, that you told him not to go. But why couldn't you alert everyone else? And let everyone know not to go on the plane. Just one guy, don't go because you knew it's going to be hijacked. Everyone else is on the plane. You know what kind of trauma they're going through? Why? And the Rebbe told him, I didn't know that it's going to be hijacked. I understood the person sitting in front of me is not supposed to go on that flight tonight. Which basically means I have a message from Shamayim. He didn't use those words. But as a tzaddik, a Rebbe understands things. There's divine wisdom. He gets it. He says it's not for you. It doesn't mean that he's previewed at that time to all of these details. It's going to be a hijack and where it's going to go and from where. But you don't have to go onto that flight. Moshe Rabbeinu had a connection to Hashem. Alter Rebbe brings in Torah that Levi is from the Lashon. Why was Levi given the name Levi? Because his mother Leah said, "Apam yilava ishi elai." Now my husband will connect with me. Levi is the term of connection. Moshe Shevet Levi. That's the idea of a connection. He had a very strong bond with Hashem, with spirituality. He was very connected. In a spiritual sense, understanding things, connecting with higher levels, getting it, having that sensitive perception. Moshe is not just a regular guy, right? That's why he didn't speak. He's the idea of machshava, of thought, of ideas, and he's questioning Hashem. How does this work? Moshe Rabbeinu was so nullified. He was so bottle. He lacked ego so much. He was pashat humble to the extent, in the Haggadah, his name is not even there. Torah doesn't say like we do by Chanukah, B'mei Mordechai, B'mei Mordechai v'Esther, or by Chanukah, B'mei Matisyo, right? In the times of Matisyo, and then we also thank Hashem, of course, but we're bringing out the heroes of the story. Moshe is not presented as a hero in this context. We don't say in the Haggadah Moshe Rabbeinu, the days of Moshe and Aaron. Moshe was bottled. His whole existence was all about Hashem, all about spirituality. It was at a much higher level, really unprecedented, and the highest type of Navi that there is. And yet, he's questioning. Before we answer the question, and it carries a very important message in general about our questioning Hashem and how and if and when. There was a Rav, he was the Rebbe of Shvil, Rabbi Gedalia Moshe Goldman. And then later in his life he lived in Yerushalayim, but he was in a town, Zvil, in Ukraine. And he was chased after the communist authorities, Soviets, and he was arrested, and he was in some kind of labor camp as a young man. He's in a labor camp, relatively young. And one day, it was a Shabbos morning, the officer overseeing the camp calls him and another elderly Jew into his office, and he says, I got the news of your life. The administration has decided to let you guys go free. Sign these couple documents and you're out. And he gives a pen and a paper to Rabbi Goldman, to the Shvila Rebbe. He looks at it and he says, I can't sign it. It's Shabbos. Now, on the one hand, it's Shabbos, I can't do it. On the other hand, it's Sakanas Nefashos. It's a matter of life and death. I'm getting out of here. If I don't go out now, I'm not going out. But at the same time, is it really a matter of life and death? I'm in a labor camp. I'm young. I'm strong. I could survive this. I'm not going to die necessarily. And the officer's shouting at him, if you don't sign this paper now, you're never going to leave this place. I will see to it. So I'm sorry, it's Shabbos. I can't do it. He said, you're crazy. And he moved the paper over to this older Yid that was sitting next to him. Sign.
What country was that?
Which part of Russia?
Oh, it was in Russia.
I don't think it was probably Siberia.
Yeah. Okay.
So he hands over the paper to the sign. Now he just saw that this Rav was not signing it because it's Shabbos, so he wouldn't sign it. The elderly Yid that was also in jail, labor camp. So the Shvila Rebbe took the paper away from him and he said, give me the pen, I'll sign it. And the officer said, 1 second, what's going on here? He said, I'll explain. I'm young, strong, and healthy. I don't feel it's a matter of life and death for me. He's an old, frail person. And if I'm not going to sign it for him, if he stays here, we'll die. It's like, I'm signing him out. The officer grabbed the pen back and he said, you guys are crazy. I'm signing for both of you. He never saw anything like it. He let him go. The answer to our question, how Moshe Rabbeinu could question Hashem and say, Lama Hari Esa, and why the others don't, if it's for yourself, if you are going through a problem, you have to trust Hashem, daven, ask for it to change, but you don't say, hey, why are you doing bad things? But if you see someone else that has a challenge and things are not going good for another person, then you turn to Hashem and you say, Lama Hari Esa, why is this person going through that difficulty? Help him, change it. For yourself, you could say, maybe it's a cleansing, maybe I deserve, maybe I have to do tshuva. Let's change it. Let's fix this. For another person, don't all of a sudden come and say, oh, I trust Hashem, let him suffer, he has a reason. No. And if you look closely, Avram Avinu, for himself, he didn't question. But when it came to Sodom and Amorah, and those people were going to be killed, Avram Avinu turns to Hashem and says, Hashefet kol haaretz liyaseh mishpat. Is it possible that someone, the judge, you're not going to, how could he do this? Maybe there's some good people there. So Avram also is fine with questioning Hashem. Not about himself. His difficulties, his challenges, he just accepts them. Yes.
I know I just got here, but
Welcome.
thank you. The question always bothers me. What's the sort of the difference? How come it's okay to question for other people but not for oneself?
Okay, it's a very good question. On a basic level, when you see someone suffering, you daven for them, it's very powerful. And it's not your place to put judgment that they may or may not deserve a punishment from Hashem. That's insensitive to feel that way. Probably just Yisrael, we have to say, help that Yid. The fact that you know about it is you have to daven for them. But I want to go a little bit deeper and understand, according to Chassidus, what is Moshe Rabbeinu? We touched on it before, but let's talk about it a little bit more. Avram was chesed, right? He was kindness. His whole life was about helping other people. He had a tent that opened on all four sides. He gave people. He gave. So much so, he didn't even want to chase away Yishmael, who was bad, who had to go. Hashem had to tell him, listen to your wife and send him away. Yitzchak was Gevura. He was no nonsense. He was disciplined. Things have to be done a certain way. It's severity, strictness, justice, judgment. Yaakov is Tiferes. He has the blend between both of them, kindness and discipline. You know when to stand up. You know when to be strong. You know when to let things. It's a blend. It's a very important thing. Moshe Rabbeinu is Torah. Okay, Torah is moichin. It's the brain. It's understanding. It's processing. It's connecting with it. It's being able to relate. And Moshe Rabbeinu is all about taking this Torah, through understanding and getting the Yidden to do it. Now, of course, we're not limiting it to our understanding. We're not saying if you don't understand, you don't do it. God forbid. But there is an importance that Moshe Rabbeinu's existence is about, and that's Torah, to understand. Kings of old, they didn't have any PR ministers or some people that are in charge of public relations. They should look good because they're all powerful. They don't need anyone's vote. They don't care what you say or think. If you don't like it, you're out. Out of this world. And they just do what they want. Later on, things change. You have to have some kind of PR. People have to relate to it. They do these polls. You want to make sure that he's popular, he's doing good, he's positive, negative, what's going on. Up until Moshe Rabbeinu, there wasn't the concept as much of let's understand Torah, let's get the Yidden to do it. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they were so connected to Hashem, they did what they were told, and that's it. Moshe Rabbeinu is a new era. We're getting the Torah now. You didn't have to understand. And I'm asking you, Hashem, why are they suffering? And Hashem answers it that it's part of the process. They're going to get out of Mitzrayim. It's going to be great miracles. They're getting the Torah. He answers him in a way. But Moshe Rabbeinu he's questioning because it's not about him. He sees others suffering. He's saying, Hashem, why are they suffering? Change this. And two, I want to understand so I could process this and explain it to them that they should want to take the Torah. We focus so much on not questioning that we forget that we also have to understand things. We're not saying, if you're not, then I'm not going to believe anymore. But we are saying, let's try to understand what goes on. Let's connect to it on a deep level, on an internalizing level.
It was also about Ahavas Yisrael.
Exactly. 100%.
He cared very deeply about the Jews, and he cared about their suffering, and he spoke out of from his heart. Yeah,
I just want to quote the Rebbe's words in Teres Menachem. Ikir and Yanei Shal Moshe hu Chachma. The main aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu is wisdom. He's the one that gave the Yidden the Torah. The main focus of our Avos was Midas. Okay, and they bequeathed this to the Yidden, this way of having Midas, Avat Hashem, and having the appropriate Chesed and Gvura and Tiferes and so on. But Moshe is here to do the Torah part, the Meichen part, understanding the wisdom. And therefore, because that's his main thing, he's asking the Eibishter. And that's what the Rabbeinu B'chaya says. It's not such a terrible thing. Somebody once came to the Kotzker Rebbe and asked him a question about faith. Had some sveka, some doubts in Emunah. He told him, go to Gemara Masechta, whatever, go to Tosfos, and listen to this page. Bottom of the page, look there. So he runs right away to the Gemara, goes to Tosfos, looks it up. He doesn't understand how it's connected to his question. So he looks again, he asks someone else, well, here's my question, here's my thing. It's not different topic. I mean, Rebbe doesn't make mistakes, but So he goes back to the Kotzker Rebbe, he musters the courage, and he says, I looked it up, and maybe it's a different page. It's not here. He says, no, it's the right page. If you look on the bottom, Tosfos has this big question, and at the end he says, "V'tzarech iyun gadol." It needs some further. We have to look into it more. In other words, he doesn't answer the question. He says, if Tosfos finishes and he has a question, you could also have a question. It's okay. So you don't have an answer. We're questioning because we want to understand, but we're not making it conditional. We're not saying, listen, Hashem, I don't agree with this. My mind can't process your thinking. I'm not, going to follow anymore. That we're not saying. There was a boy in New Jersey, and we'll conclude with this story. There was a boy in New Jersey, little kid, learning this is in 1981. He's learning in school, and his teacher taught him, Bereshis bara Elikim, the beginning Hashem created heaven and earth. So he came home and he told his mother, or asked his mother, who created Hashem? She wasn't sure, how do you answer this? What do you say? And how's he's, 6-7-year-old kid? She said, ask your teacher. It's a good question. So he went back to school because she wants to get her money's worth. So he goes back to school and he asked the teacher, who created Hashem? He's like, what? How dare you ask such a question? Who made Hashem? No one made Hashem. And he really gave it to the kid. This question is wrong and it's heresy and da da da. Comes back home quite upset and tells his mother, I didn't get an answer. Apparently it's a bad question. She said, no, it's a very important question. I think you should write this to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And she helps him write a letter to the Rebbe of who made Hashem. Hashem created the world. Who created him? And this boy got a letter back from the Rebbe in Sivan of 1981 in English. I don't have the exact wording, but the Rebbe told him, I got your letter, and this that you want to ask, this that you're asking, who created Hashem, you should know the desire to know is very important. It's praiseworthy. And the Rebbe quotes from Tehillim that David HaMelech says, Da'as Elokei Avicha, you should know the God of your father, V'avdeyu b'leiv shalom, and serve him with a full heart. But there's a right time for it. There's an appropriate time when you could ask this question. For now, the most important thing is to focus on mitzvahs and do them with Kabbalah. So accept the yoke. Hashem said you do it. But when the time will come, you'll ask your teacher or your rabbi to ask this question. The Rebbe tells him the question is okay, it's good, it's important, you're supposed to try to understand. At the same time, do mitzvahs because Hashem said so. Follow the instructions. In the opportune time, in the right context, you could ask. It's a good thing.
So do we have the follow-up?
Of him asking his teacher down the road, I don't know. I don't have it. But you want the answer? Who created Hashem?
I want to know what happened.
Let's summarize. Moshe Rabbeinu is the first that says Lama Harei Esa, and it's such a strong language. And in a sense, though, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Questioning Hashem doesn't sound so pious. It's someone from Moshe Rabbeinu's level. But because he saw Yidden suffering, he turned to Hashem and he said, why are they suffering? What could they have possibly done wrong? How is this right? And the reason why he's doing it is because Moshe is machshava. He's giving the Yidden the Torah. He's chachma. He has to understand. Not as a prerequisite, but he has to understand to be able to get the Yidden to connect with it in a way that they could process it. And Hashem says, you'll see, this is part of the journey. It has to go that way.
Moshe Rabbeinu took this up in a way afterwards when he asked Hashem, I want to understand your goodness. I want to understand all about you. Hashem says, look, you can see my back, but you can't see my face. Just as long as you're in